Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Trolley Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we have the Academy 132nd A-18C Hornet. And to be transparent, I have built this kit before, probably about 5, 6, maybe 8 years ago. So definitely looking forward to getting back into this one and building again and seeing how my skills have progressed over the years. Sadly, I still don't have the built model of this because it did not survive a few of the moves that I made while I was in the Coast Guard. So this time I get to go at it with a blank slate. Sadly, I think I might have pictures of the built one, but I'm not sure. So going off with the top box art, we have absolutely gorgeous box art of let's see, I can't see what squadron it is, or VFA 192 on the catapult right here with shooter standing right there. And at the top of the box it says various weapons included: solid synthetic rubber tires, fully engraved panel lines and rivet detail, die-cast metal landing gear struts, accurately reproduced exterior and cockpit, an open or closed canopy, radome and air brake, and lifelike 4 figures included 2 pilots and 2 ground crew in this kit. So a lot is going to be packed into here. And then we go off to the side, we have some nice pictures of the built model right here, including the 4 figures that are included with different heads as well for the figures. And then we have the radome open with all of the weapons loadouts and all that. So we get the box opened up, maybe get the box opened up, and it is nicely packed and protected. We have the instructions and decals on the front, and then you have a nice little box protector right here to kind of keep everything in. So hold on. Alright, it looked like the parts weren't even in plastic there for a second. So we have a box inside a box right here that's going to have our canopy and metal landing gear and all that. So I'm going to get everything set up and put up to the side, and then we can start going through the instructions, decals, and all the plastic included in the kit. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have the typical Academy style booklet format, and on the front we have a repeat of the box art in black and white, and then we have a nice little history about the F-18 right there. And as well, we have the legend of symbols that we'll be using throughout the instructions. We open it up and we are getting straight to it. We are putting in, or connecting, putting together, maybe if I can use the right phrase, putting together the ejection seat. It does look like we do have decals for the seat as well. Then after that, we're working on our cockpit, getting our instrument panel all together, and we have a few decals to be setting that up. After that, we are working on our nose landing gear section, getting all that attached, and we do have some paint guides in here as well on colors and all of that. Alright, after that we are working on our nose landing gear. We do have a metal core for our landing gear, which is going to help strengthen that, and then everything else goes in around this metal core. Alright, and then after that we have our rubber tires going on, and then everything getting set up with that. We do have a couple decals going onto the nose landing gear strut as well. Alright, then moving right along, we are getting the nose landing gear into the gear well, and it looks like this will be able to be attached at the very end of the build, so you won't have to do it right at this point. And then after that is done, we are getting our front fuselage section put in together. We do have a screw to screw it in, and then we have a few other little tidbits to put onto the side. We also do need to drill out a couple holes, but it is an option, and it says to see step 21 before drilling out those holes. So we'll have to see what is going on in step 21 on if we are going to drill those holes out or not. Alright, so after that we do have some full-length engines, but no detail to the engines on the exterior. We just have the fan, the exhaust, and the intake right here, and then we are getting that put together with our intakes right here. Then after that is done, we are getting our top, bottom, and engine intake section all put together, and we do have some screws to fasten all of that in. We have some mechanical bindings going on. Alright, and if you look here, you have some other detail parts going in that are pretty small. It says temporarily hold with cellophane tape. Alright, so moving right along, we do have the option of having the wings extended or folded, but if you are going to do wings folded, you are going to have to cut along the line right here to do it. And we're getting our wings together, getting those attached, and then after that is done, we are getting the outer intake walls put on, along with our formation lights going on as well. Alright, and then after that is all done, we are getting our fuselage halves together, along with the nose and aft section, and then we have this hump or spinal section to go in that covers up if the two-seat section of this for the F-18D right there. Alright, and then after that we're adding in a couple panels right here. Looks like we have a light to go on. That's an option. It's for the Canadian, Swiss, Kuwaiti, and Finnish version only. So if you're going to do that, if you have the aftermarket decals to do one of those, you will be doing this step right here. Alright, so after that we are getting our intake faces on right here, and then we are adding in more of our wing parts right here to go on the front, the very leading edges. Then after that we have our flaps going together, getting all the flaps and ailerons on, and then our slats as well. You can have them in the up or down position for everything, so that is a nice detail. And then just moving right along, all your spoilers going on, and then repeating for the other side. And then we have our vertical stabilizers and horizontal stabilizers / elevators going on right here, as well as our rudders. Alright, so after that we do have a couple options for our exhaust in the open or closed position, and then we also have this little belly pan going on as well, and we do have the top piece and the bottom piece going on. And then after that we have our nose, and then we have the IFF, identification friend or foe, blade antenna, which is also an optional. So if you're going to do it, you're going to need to drill out these holes right here. Alright, then moving right along, we're just getting our nose cone on. You do have the option of having this in the open or closed position, and then you have your radome right here. So if you're going to do the closed position, you just attach this right now, and then if you're going to do the open position with your radar and everything in there, you're going to attach that at the very end. You're going to attach all of this first. And then moving on to the next step, we have our aft landing gear. Getting our struts together with these metal cores, which again really makes the landing gear strong. The one sad thing about that is it really doesn't make it positionable. You kind of have to really do some real surgery or modification to this. Like if you want to have it in flight with the landing gear down, how the landing gear really drops down, you're going to definitely have to cut that to make that work. Getting all the little detail pieces, we do have some decals that are going to go on here as well. So a lot of detail on these landing gear. And then we're repeating for the other side, getting everything attached right there. We do have some struts going in there as well for support. And a nice color guide on the landing gear well right here. After that we're adding in our gear doors, getting all the gear doors attached for the aft and front section right here. Then we have our tail hook going in. I'm not sure if that's going to be a decal or painted for the tail hook. And then we have the option of having the boarding ladder in the up or down position. And then we have our canopy and instrument combing going on with our HUD right here all together. Then we have the option of having the canopy open or closed. So see these parts for the open or closed position right here. Then after that we have a lot of lumps and bumps, antennas, and all that going on all through here. Our speed brake, open or closed. And then we have all of our pylons going on. Right here we do have the early style or late style center pylon as well. See what step 21 was, by the way. Okay, so step 21, if you remember back at the very beginning where it said option, refer to step 21, those two holes are drilled for this little support brace for your nose if you're going to have it open. So that's what those holes were meant for. So if you're not going to have the nose open, you don't have to worry about drilling those holes. Alright, so skipping back to where we were, this is for the wings folded option. So if you're going to do the wings folded, you're going to have to do some modifications to the wings. It does look like the lines are there, so for reference on where to cut. So it should be relatively easy. If I remember correctly, the lines are there for cutting to make everything work out. And then we're just repeating with the flaps and slats and the everything going forward right there. So everything's the same. Now we go back to the wings, or not the wings, the Ordnance. We have A9L/M for the sidewinders. We have our LAO7 A6 wingtip launchers. Right here we have more sidewinders. We have an AIM-120 AMRAAM, the AIM-7 F or M Sparrow. We have the 300-gallon fuel tank, GBU-31 JDAM, a GBU-10 paveway, GBU-24 paveway 3 on here, and then we have the AGM-84 Harpoon / AGM-84E SLAM missile. We have Mark 82 500-pound bombs, general purpose and snake eye right here. Then we have the BRU-33 vertical ejector rack right here that only carries 2 extra bombs. We also have our AGM-88 HARM and high-speed anti-radiation missile, and then we have the launcher for that missile. We also have a AGM-65 Maverick with this launcher, and then we do have some sensors going on with our ASQ-173 LDT SIGAM pod, the AAR-50 TINS pod, and then we have the FLIR pod going on right here. So a ton of work going on here. It shows you how to attach the FLIR pod, the TINS, or the SCAM rod pod right there. And then we have our external stores diagram at the very end. Then we have our figures going together. So we have the pilots. We have pilots in the seated position, one on the ladder, or Marine ground crew right here. And then we have a naval catapult officer. It does show you the difference in camouflage as well, and it does come with decals for the flight deck jerseys and the helmets right here, as you can see, and more of them down here as well. Alright, and then after that we have our aircraft weapons color callouts and decal callouts, going through all of those right there. And then we have our common data decals all through there. And then we have our actual options that we can do. So we have VFA 192, the world famous Golden Dragons 2000 right here from the USS Kitty Hawk. And then we have again USS Kitty Hawk VFA 192 world famous Dragons 2001. So we have both aircraft 301 right here. Both of them will be colorful tail flash because this is the XO's bird. The difference between a commanding officer and an XO is commanding officer has the entire tail painted, while the XO just has the squadron insignia painted as bright color. The rest of them start to go down as just the regular low-vis version. And then lastly we have USS John C. Stennis VFA 146, the Blue Diamonds from 2002 right here with the US flag on the front. Really nice scheme right here on that. So again, really nice, but for me, I will not be using any of these decals. I do have aftermarket ones I'll be using for this. for the most part. We'll see what else I need from the kit. Then after that, we have our sprue callouts right here. The parts are nicely numbered, so you can see them and read them. And we also have our color callouts right here. We also do have a unused parts list right here, listing out all the parts that you will not be using in this build. Alright, so up next we have our decal sheets, and we get one very large decal sheet and then one that is pretty much a standard one. It just makes this one makes the other one look small. But for the most part, like we have our walkways and everything, they do feel okay. They're not too thick, and everything else does look okay. We do have a nice decal for that flag that's going to be wrapping around the nose if you do the blue diamonds option right there, and just all around some nice decals on that right there. Then moving on to our next decal sheet, this is all of our Ordnance and some of our interior decals right here. Does not look like we have the option of having it in the powered down option for MFDs right through there. So again, a lot of really nice decals, especially for these right here. For our flight deck officers, definitely will be saving these because while Reed Oak does amazing figures for flight deck figures and stuff, they do not include decals like this for the flight deck jerseys. Now, Reed Oak, on the other hand, they also produce absolutely amazing flight deck figures and crewmen and all that stuff, and their figures do include decals as well. So alright, so moving on to the box, first we have this nose cone right here. Does look pretty nice. There are a few little scratches in the plastic right here, but they are really shallow and shouldn't really show up after you get paint on this model. Then we have a nice screwdriver and screws. This one, unlike Tamiya's, are meant for people with normal size hands and not people from the Willy Wonka chocolate factory right here. So if you have normal size hands or large hands, you will be able to use this screwdriver. And then we have our rubber tires right here. Rubber on them, they do look okay. Actually, the tread on it does look pretty good once I can get this open. Just cut it off. Alright, so going by the tread on here, and actually we do have some good sidewall detail on here as well. So actually these rubber tires are actually pretty good. If you've been following the channel, you know I'm not a fan of rubber tires, but these actually don't look too bad. There's some nice tread detail on them. I am not seeing a mold seam down the middle either. So very nicely done by Academy on these tires. Another thing that we have included is an Academy mini catalog. So just going through here, looking at everything that is included. But yeah. Alright, then up next we have our canopy parts. Alright, so looking at the main canopy, or aft canopy right here, we do have the mold seam going right down the middle right here, but it's not too big, so we should be able to sand that off relatively easy and then polish this back up so it looks like nothing was ever there. So not really any major issues with that. We do have a few little scuffs going on, but like I said, when we're taking care of this seam line, we're going to be able to take care of the rest of those as well. And then we have the front nose canopy right here. Again, we do have the seam line going right down the middle of it. This one is a little bit more pronounced, so it might take a little bit more work to get done. But also we do have the connection part for the fuselage that is kind of extended, so if we need to do putty or any sanding, this is going to be away from the clear parts, which is going to make sanding and putty a lot easier. But we also do have that seam line, but shouldn't be too much of an issue to take care of. Alright, and then we have our metal cores for our landing gear right here. Not much to them, they're just metal cores. You're going to have plastic that goes around all of that to really detail that up. And then lastly, we have another sprue of clear parts, which is our HUDs, our navigation lights, and some of the sensor windows for some of our ordnance as well. Alright, so starting off with our first couple sprues, we have what looks to be the top nose section right here, and then we have our flaps and our belly section right here, and all the detail, not much like rivet detail to this that I can see. A little bit of rivet detail right through here, and then on the flaps, no rivet detail. And then we have some nice vent detail on here as well. But if you want it to be, I know there are some aftermarket 3D printed ones that absolutely look amazing, which I might be diving into that when I do this kit. But that looks pretty good. And then we flip it over to the other side. So there is these nice little saw channels right here to cut off if you're going to do the folded wings section right here. You can see that, and you just get your razor saw in there and it fits right in there perfectly, so there's no wiggle room or anything like that, and definitely be able to saw that out. And the same thing with the small ones right here as well. And then on to our next sprue, we have our vertical stabilizers right here. We have some absolutely gorgeous rivet detail on those, as you can see, on all of them, with our formation lights molded onto them on the exterior sides only. So you know, some kits they have them molded on the inside and outside. This one has it only on the outside of them, so that's very nicely done on that. And then we have a bunch of other little detail parts like our pylons and our flap actuators right here. I think these are rudder pedals, maybe, we'll have to see. But all the other detail parts right through here. The pylons do look pretty good as well. Alright, so up next we have a double sprue right here, and this is of our Ordnance. So we have our Mark 82 bodies right here, and also the tails, also for the snake eye versions as well. Those are right down here. Then we have our BRUs right here, along with some other fins and all that going on right there. So, and then we have our AGM 84s, bodies and tails. And then lastly, we have our M120s right here. So detail for out of the box kits, they look, or for out of the box Ordnance, they look okay. The fins on the, so the fins on the M120s are blocked off. They are relatively thick, as you can see right there. So you're definitely going to need to sand those down to get them to a knife edge, or get the aftermarket ones from Edward or ResKit or whoever you decide to get from. Alright, so up next we have another double sprue, so two of these with all of our Ordnance. This looks to be our ground attack Ordnance for the most part. We have our AGM 88 harms right here. We do have our sidewinders right here, and then we have our GBU 31 JDAMs, and then we have our GBU Pavoys right here, and then lastly we have our AGM 65 Mavericks right there. And then looking at the backside, so the backside of the Mavericks are right here, so it should be fairly nice on that. But again, there are better options out there than what's in the kit. Okay, so our next sprue is of our landing gear section. So again, some nice cabling detail in there, molded in, and also you can see a little bit of rivet detail on there. And then on the top side of our nose landing gear well, we have some really nice detail on that. So some actually astonishing, gorgeous detail on these 4 injection molding. And this kit is not young, So again, very nicely done on all of these. You see our instrument combing has a little bit of a texture on that as well. So that is very nice. Just moving right along to all these other pieces. Flipping it over to the other side. Alright, so not sure what this piece is for, but there's no ejector pin marks on that. And then everything else on here looks absolutely amazing. We do have... I don't know what's going on with this piece right here. I'm hoping that it's supposed to be like that. We'll have to see. And then we have just a bunch of other pieces for our aft landing gear doors. Again, nice and smooth, no ejector pin marks on any of that, and some nice interior detail on those doors as well. Alright, and then up next we have some more cockpit detail right here. So this is going to be the back wall to our cockpit. Again, I know this looks pretty nice for out of the box. Don't get me wrong, it looks pretty nice for injection molding, but the Aries set does look a lot better than this set right here, because you can actually fold this net up and you can show the electronics that are underneath of there. And then for the canopy railing right here, that does actually look very nice. We do have some wiring detail on here right here, but on the underside there's really not much to it, and you're going to be able to see a good amount of this as well. We also have our wing fold areas right there, and then some of our landing gear pieces right there as well. So as you can see, there's going to be a lot of detail on this, and straight out of the box this will look very nicely when it's all finished. So again, alright, so up next we have more cockpit detail right here. We have the front cockpit right here, some very nice instrument detail and dial detail on there. That looks very nice. And then for our instrument panel, again, some very nice detail on that. And judging from my experience with DCS on the F-18, they do look very correct on the alignment of all this. So this is your fuel readout, your MFDs right here, and then this is your where you type in all your coordinates and all that, your weapons setups and all that. So when I start building this, we will definitely be doing some DCS flights in the F-18 as part of the channel, or as part of the build list as well. Alright, so up next we have our figures, sprues, and figures on here, they do look okay. For injection molding, they look okay. Like I said, we have 3D printed stuff now that look absolutely amazing and lifelike, and but these, for out of the box, these will do pretty good. The faces on here, they do look pretty good. They don't look like they have resting MRE face or diarrhea face, so that is nice. But everything else on here, I mean, the figures are pretty nice for, like I said, injection molding. They are pretty nice. Then we have the other pilot right here. These MVGs probably need to be extended out a little bit farther, but that's being nitpicky on that. And then all the other stuff on the figures look really nice. I like how they left the shoes off, because half the time when you do the pilot figures, you end up having to cut the feet off anyways. Alright, up next we have our sprue with our wings and everything. It does look like there is a little bit of warpage in here. I'm hoping that when I cut everything off the sprues that it does straighten back out, but as you can see, hopefully, let me zoom out some more, there is a good amount of warpage on these wings. I mean, that's really bad for that warpage. Definitely going to have to work on getting those straightened back out, because you look, I mean, that is, yeah, that's going to take a lot of work to get that straightened back out. So yeah, that is one major downside to the kit so far. I haven't seen anything wrong until I saw that. But other than that, so that can be fixed. with a little bit of a hair dryer and tape down to a board to level it out. That can be taken care of. The rivet detail on everything on here looks very nice, and you have looks like you're gonna have a nice strong connection point to the fuselage as well. Then we flip it over to the other side, and again we have that nice saw channel for cutting the folded wing area off right here on both wings. And then this one on the top side, that's going to be a little bit of a guessing game, because I'm not sure. I know the fold starts here and ends here, but we'll have to see what else goes on. Alright, and then up next we have our forward fuselage section right here. Again, nice panel line detail. We have this section right here that, unless you're doing a Canadian or a Kuwaiti, or I can't remember all the other countries, but if you're doing a US version, this is going to be blocked off. If you're doing anything from the rest of the world, this will be opened up, and there's some more panels and glass work to go on that right there. But as for all the panel lines and everything, they look absolutely amazing. The slime or formation lights, also known as slime lights, those also look very nice. Just going through here, no real issues with anything. I'm wondering, I can't remember how the intakes go. These do seem a little bit squared off, and they need to be kind of curved or rounded off right here. So that's one issue that I can see. But like I said, that's being nitpicky on that right there. And get one of the scrapers or the barrel rounders, and that will solve that issue real quick. Going off the ejection seats, okay, so the ejection seats do look a little bit basic, to be honest. Definitely be getting an aftermarket ejection seat. Alright, and flip this over. Really the only thing that we're going to be worried about is the ejection seats right here, so the seat cushions. And again, the molded on seat belts, those don't look right in my opinion. So definitely going to be getting the aftermarket ejection seat. The landing gear doors, again, no ejector pin marks, nice and smooth on that, so nicely done. And then we have, for our cockpit section, we do have a little bit of sidewall detail right here on both sides to paint up and take care of. And then everything else on here, you're not going to be seeing. So again. Alright, so up next we have another sprue with our pylons right here. Pylons do look pretty good with the rivet detail and panel lines and all that. Then we have a few more missiles right here, and then our fuel tanks as well. Fuel tanks do look a little bit small, in my opinion. They do look a little bit small. For the exhausts, alright, those definitely be getting aftermarket for. Those do not look good at all. So definitely going to be getting some aftermarket exhausts. Either open or closed, they do not look good in my opinion. They look generic and basic. With the other detail that they're doing on this kit, they could have put more detail into the exhaust area. So there's that engine and everything, as you can see right through there. We flip it over. Yeah, the interior side of the exhaust, yeah, it's just so much more can be done to it. And I know Aries and Res Kit, they do have some really nice exhaust sets for this. And this is also a double sprue. Alright, so up next we have our sensors, like our TIMs, our SCAM, and also our FLIR turret right here. Again, very nice. Nicely done for the most part. I do know, like I said, there are better out there with Edward or Res Kit or any of the other manufacturers for aftermarket. But for out of the box, these do look pretty nice. And they will definitely get the job done. Look in the looks department right here. So no issues with any of that. Then the other thing is, so if you're not a fan of rubber tires like I am not, but you also don't want to go out and buy the aftermarket resin tires, they do have the option of doing plastic right here. Now, for the detail on the plastic, there's some nice sidewall detail on it, but the tread detail on there is non-existent. There is a very light tread line right there. I mean, my fingernail barely catches it when I rub my fingernail over it. So that is one downside to the plastic versus the rubber tires, or just going out and getting the aftermarket wheels as well. So that's where we're standing with that one. Everything else, like we have some little actuator arms. This looks like it might be for the cockpit right here. But other than that, everything else looks okay. And then finally, on our last sprue, we have some fuselage detail, upper and lower. So starting off with the upper, we have some absolutely gorgeous panel line and rivet detail on there. And then even in the speed brake area, there is some very nice line detail and everything in there. Some cabling, all that, as you can see. So just moving right along on here again. These are going to be the sidewalls to the intakes. So again, nice panel line and rivet detail on there. Then on the underside, we do have some mold release on here, so definitely going to need to give this a good wipe down and a bath before we start building it. But just going off on all the detail for out of the box injection molding landing gear, well, that is absolutely amazing. That is, I mean, even by today's standards, those are really, really nice. And I think I ordered the aftermarket gear bays for this. With looking at this, I'm not going to use them. I think I cannot see the aftermarket being much better than that right there. So we flip it over to the other side because the important part is the intakes. And the intakes, we do have some ejection pin or ejector pin marks right down the middle, right here. There's 3 of them per intake. They are raised, so they should be fairly easy to sand down or Dremel down on these. On these, they're recessed right here. So you're going to need to putty these and then Dremel these down right here. Alright, so that is everything for the Academy 132nd FA-18C Hornet. Now, the kit the exterior detail on it looks absolutely amazing. The panel lines, rivets, all that. The cockpit also looks very nice. The landing gear wells also top notch on that. I mean, for out of the box, those are probably some of the best injection molded landing gear wells that I have seen to date. And I mean, I don't think I've looked at anything newer, but that looks very, very nice, and I don't see there being a need for aftermarket on that. The Ordnance seems a little bit generic on that, and the ejection seat also was generic, and also the exhaust as well. Those areas definitely need some sprucing up. And then the other downside to the kit was the wings were warped. Now, I'm not sure if that is a standard thing. If you have this kit, you might want to go and check. Or if you've built this one, let us know if you had the warp wings as well. But other than that, that's all I really have to say for this kit. I'm really looking forward to getting into it. And like I said, when we do build this on the channel, I will be doing some digital combat simulator videos as well, flying the F-18 and putting some warheads on foreheads digitally in the simulator. So that's what I'm looking forward to with this build. I don't know when I'm going to build it, but again, it's going to be a really fun one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this inbox review, and if you're on the fence about getting this kit, hopefully this helped you with your decision. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment down below. And until next time, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.